Well, it's not just the office where changes may be on the way. Banking, for example, used to be considered as a job for life. Now it seems as ripe for rationalization. Put simply, if a job is highly defined, it could be automated. In Europe, banking hours tend to suit the banks and not their customers.
Accidenti, sono già le 4.
So in Italy, they're experimenting with a network which would bring the computer into every part of a local bank and allow it to stay open long after normal banking hours.
Accidenti.
Most of the people working behind the counter are doing tasks easily performed by a computer. Now machines costing just £8,000 can be trusted to monitor the paying out and the handing in of money throughout the entire local branch. At the moment, this bank is a prototype, as is its cash. After being placed in a counting device, the deposit is recorded on the bank's own computer. That computer keeps a printed record of money being paid in and out. In conventional banks, this tally is balanced up at the end of the day by backroom staff and can take up to 2 hours.
Avrei bisogno di prelevare 200.000 lire.
In this bank, the computer balances up the flow of cash as it goes along. So if the staff don't have to do all the traditional counting up after hours, the bank doesn't need to close so early. The installation of systems like this would mean more people to serve customers, longer opening hours, but fewer staff in the back room.
Grazie a lei.
Prego. Buongiorno.
Arrivederci.
So there we have it once again. Jobs lost in one area, but balanced by new services created in another. American experience has shown that so far professional and management jobs are relatively untouched, but all that might change with the newly developing expert systems. Expert systems are pieces of software which can reason, well, in specialist areas at least, using rules which human experts have provided. Edward Feigenbaum is one of the leading names in artificial intelligence.
Well, any tasks that can be narrowly defined in the office situation will be amenable to treatment by expert systems relatively soon. For example, inventory control or writing up certain kinds of reports or analyzing financial reports, or to take an example that's quite recent, selecting a price for an underwriting risk in an insurance company, or deciding whether to make a loan to a customer in a bank. These are quite specific tasks that we'll see come online relatively soon.
The airlines were among the first to computerize themselves with what has become a gigantic worldwide reservations network. Now they're among the first to use expert systems along with traditional data processing. Competition has forced many airlines, like America's Northwest Orient, to offer discount seats on busy routes to attract customers. It costs hundreds of pounds a minute to keep a jumbo jet in the air. But of course, discount fares mean you get less money per seat than you do for a normal full fare. So the secret of maximizing your revenue is juggling the sales of the two sorts of seats. And this depends on how well you and your competitors are doing. Northwest Orient employs highly paid people to make judgments of this kind, moment by moment.
They have experts online to their systems all the time, monitoring the seats on a plane to decide how many discount seats shall be made available on any flight. The Sperry database management system called Mapper outputs a set of reports to these experts, and these experts make sensitive judgments at each moment about how to adjust the number of discount seats.
Now, Pete, up until now, we've talked quite a bit about factors that would lead to a decision to decrease the number of discount seats on a flight.
Using an expert from Northwest Orient Airlines, the knowledge engineers at Sperry and IntelliCorp developed an expert system to accept those reports from Mapper automatically and propose recommended discount seats to the airline seat controllers.
What about the opposite, increasing? What sorts of factors would be involved there?
Well, the things we look at now are basically how far in advance we are from day departure, and also what triggers it, maybe if we're running out of seats. We currently have a report that tells us if we have 5 or less seats available in a particular discount class.
Using the rules teased out of the experts by the software or knowledge engineer, the electronic expert system is now up and running. At present, it's helping those expensive employees to confirm their decisions. But how long before it takes over from them and makes the decisions all by itself?
The expert system can review all factors all the time. It's even faster, more reliable than the human expert.
Their estimate is that if they can upgrade one seat from discount to business full fare for 25% of their flights, that amounts to $3 million a year, and the system will pay itself back in a fraction of a year.
Shirley, do you think we'll see a bigger impact from the new technology on jobs in the future than we've seen so far?
Oh, I think without any doubt at all. One of the areas where I think we will see heavy job losses is the clerical area, because there has been so far a fairly slow adaptation into the new technologies, and all the American projections indicate that that will be one area of substantial job loss. But don't forget, it's always slower than the experts think it's going to be. On the other hand, in spite of expert systems, I don't think we're going to see a rapid decline in the demand for professionals and for technicians, because as we create more and more new products, so we're going to need more and more people who are able to maintain them, to understand them and to design them, and I think that's going to be the big area of job creation.
Well, although there may be a bigger demand for professionals and technicians, we can also see a lessening in demand for middle management or junior management, because as information becomes more freely available, they become less and less necessary. We see a squashing down of the pyramid in corporations.
I think that's right. I think the corporation will have a kind of pancaking effect where the middle and line management begin to disappear. On the other hand, I think more and more corporations are going to actually take work out-house to consultants and to computer firms that are meeting a particular need for, let us say, a specialized piece of software. So we're going to see a big increase in the self-employed and in consultancies, but at the same time, you rightly say, fewer people on the corporation's books who are employed as middle managers.
Well, they're very expensive with their cars and large offices and secretaries and so on, and perhaps... Do you see a growth of jobs in large corporations, or do you see it in smaller corporations?
No, again, I think almost all the evidence from both the United States and Japan is that the small companies are the big job creators, something like twice as fast as their share of the employment overall, whereas big companies in all countries are losing jobs pretty fast now.
Do you see expert systems really having the impact that we saw in that film?
Yes, but I think expert systems open up huge new markets. Let me just take one example. Medical expert systems are now being used to help people who are badly or ill-qualified doctors, sometimes even barefoot doctors in the third world, to bring the expertise of the really leading figures in the medical world to bear on particular cases, because they describe the symptoms and then they get advice from somebody who is infinitely better qualified than they are. So I think expert systems could open up a real chance of creating jobs to assist the third world.
Can we learn anything from Japan and the United States of what we should do in our educational system?
Oh, yes, we can. I think the most worrying single thing about Britain is that our education system, in many ways a good system, is also very much geared to the past. I think there are two things we have to learn. The first is that we need a much broader basis. The A level is a mistake. It narrows down people between science and maths on the one side, arts on the other, and they really need both for the world of information technology. And secondly, we've got to bring together vocational qualifications and academic ones, because we need thinkers who can make things and makers who can think about where they're going. And in many ways, the British system segregates people with vocational qualifications from the academic. It's a very great tragedy, in my view.
And finally, don't you think that the Americans are very much better at in-house corporate training than the British are?
Unbelievably. 3% of the wage cost of American corporations goes into training. In the case of Britain, it's 0.15%. It's not 1/10 of the American expenditure. And unless we begin to spend on the retraining of adults, we're going to have a lot of people unemployed who don't need to be.
Shirley Williams, thank you very much. Fred.
And that's all for this week. Next week, we'll be reporting on the Atari Computer Show being held this week in London. There's a look at the way the RAF are using micros to train their air traffic controllers, and we'll be suggesting some alternative languages to the ubiquitous BASIC. So that's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from them. Goodbye.
Well, that programme can be seen again next Monday at 5:30 here on 2.